Hello, everybody.
Cool.
Welcome to Codecademy Live. Today's Friday, July 17th. We're doing a special event today to celebrate World Emoji Day, as well as we just did a course drop on Learn Emojicode. My name is Sonny. I'm a senior curriculum developer here at Codecademy, and I have here with me the star of the show, Theo, the creator of Emoji Code. Theo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Theo, or Theo Weidmann, as we would say here. And yeah, I'm the creator of Emoji Code. I'm really excited to be here today. It's such an honor to appear here and have a real course created for Emoji Code. I'm so excited that we're going to demo the code in a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun. This is a very different set episode, I guess. We're gonna do a little Q&A in the beginning. And some of the questions that we came up with were from our learners, from Facebook group, Discord, from Twitter, and as well as some of the questions from our team. And we're gonna dive into a little course demo towards the end of the course, end of the live stream. But we highly encourage you all to ask questions in the YouTube chat throughout, and we'll try to answer some as we go. But if you can also wait to the very end of the live stream too. Cool. Should we get started, Theo?
Absolutely.
Cool. Let's start out with a simple one, and I need you to answer the question just like that. Okay.
Okay.
The question from a learner from Facebook group. Very easy question. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
What are your top 3 emojis?
Well, it really depends. I mean, the emojis I like the most, like visually, are probably the grape.
The Grape.
Learners, yeah. I mean, you could have guessed that if you've learned Emoji Code.
Yeah.
And also like all of the animals, like the pig. I really like the pig, or the swan, or the donut. I mean, the donut's not a pig, but
yeah, the pig is
not the animal. But I like them because they're visually pleasing, I think. But it's not. These are not the ones I use the most. So I'm just a regular emoji user with, I don't know, laughing face, smiling face.
Okay.
Rolling eyes up.
Nice. So a lot of these are actually like made their way into the language. So that's dope.
Yeah, certainly.
Cool. Here's another question from Discord, a learner from Discord. How did you get started coding? And also, how does one get from, learning, starting to code to designing their own programming language like you did?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So maybe how did I start to code? I learned to code actually when I was about 7 years old. So I have quite some experience in that. And yeah, what does it take? I mean, actually creating a language is not that difficult with today's tools. If you start slowly, you don't have to create, like, I don't know, another C++ on day one. Then it's not that difficult, actually. With tools like LLVM, on which Emoji Code builds today, anybody can create a language, really. I mean, it's not that it's not like you can just throw together some language structs like if and while, and then you have a language. You need to think about it, but I think most people that really know to program can also build a language.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like learning how to write your own compiler, learning how to design your own little language on paper is part of a lot of CS undergrad courses. But let's dive deep, because you did say this part I did not know. You started coding when you were 7 years old. What got you? Not many people code when they're 7, right?
Well, the reason really is that my father is a professor of computer science, so nice. I had a bit of a background there. But the story is really that I really enjoyed watching my father do all kind of things at his computer. And one day he was just automating some of his work, I think, using AppleScript. I don't know if you know AppleScript. It's a really basic.
AppleScript?
Yeah, AppleScript.
Yeah. I was watching a Steve Wozniak or Steve Jobs documentary, and they talk about AppleScript. Very nice.
Yeah, but it's kind of a weird language, but it was actually a language I first picked up. I watched my father use it, and I was like, oh, can I do that too? I want to learn that too. And my father was like, oh yeah, sure, you're going to learn Apple scripting when you're that young, and yeah, sure, here, take my manual and go. And what I did was actually, I opened the manual. I realized it was in English. I didn't speak English at the time, so I just started to type out the examples from the book. And by doing that, I actually learned to program somehow.
Yeah.
And I also learned a bit of English. I mean, one of the first words I learned from doing that was probably zip code.
Yeah.
Because there was an example where you could enter or select a city's name, and then it would show you the zip code of the city. And yeah, just like that. But also, I also did a lot of Scratch programming at the time. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just so that the viewers know, so are you based in Zurich right now?
Yeah, I'm in Zurich right now. Yeah.
Cool. Exactly. Cool. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think I told you this before. I mean, I used to live in Germany around that time, second grade. So that's crazy that you kind of learn English through a program like AppleScript, right? That's a rare use case.
Yeah, that's actually funny, because when, like, sometimes in the early days of learning English, I would like refer to the programming structs and try to use them in not like words in conversation, but if I was lacking vocabulary, I would think, what's it called in the programming language? And okay. So one day I was looking for the word to return, right? To return something. And I couldn't come up with return. And I was thinking, yeah, I know that from programming. And actually I used the word repeat then, and the people I was talking to were really confused. But yeah, it's really
cool. That's a great story. So here's another question from our learner, from one of our learners, What Dev Andrew. So his question is, what are some of your favorite projects that were built in Emoji Code?
Oh, that's a funny question. I mean, there's a like a console argument parser written in Emoji Code.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Like a console command line interface argument parser. I'm not sure what's the right word for that. Yeah, CLI argument parser or something like that. I really like that one because a lot of thought went into it. Okay. Then I really like that one too. There's a machine learning implementation. Yeah, there is. There is a machine learning implementation for Emoji Code. Really, it's written from the ground up in Emoji Code. It has its own, like you probably know from Python, NumPy, and there's NumPy. I'm not a Python programmer, really, not sure how they pronounce it. And it's called numlol, if I remember correctly, the implementation in Emoji Code. Like numlol. LOL.
Okay.
Something like that. Okay. Yeah, probably. I really love that one. So if
that's awesome.
The creator of it is watching now, I love him.
He is.
That's great.
They are.
Yeah, that's really. And what I also love, I mean, I created it myself, but I also love the JSON parser, because the JSON parser that's integrated in Emoji Code is written in Emoji Code. I mean, I wrote it myself, but it's really funny to see how you can really write like a parser in Emoji Code. That's also nice to see.
I mean, you definitely put a lot. I mean, as we're doing research, so me and one of my coworkers, Kenny, we actually worked with you to write the Learn Emoji Code that just went live on Codecademy, and we looked through your documentation, and hopefully, Alice Kunz can link out the documentation page in the YouTube chat. But you obviously, put a lot of love into. It's a pretty deep language. I was very surprised because last year we did all code, and this year we did Emoji Code. So it's definitely.
What did you do? Sorry, I didn't get you.
Last year we did, for April Fools, we did a language on a course on law code, LOL code. It's like
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
okay.
That's Satori programming language. And I think we talked a little bit about before this Zoom call whether Emoji Code is a Satori programming language or not, but. Yeah, but you obviously put a lot of thought and research and years right into this. So, definitely big thumbs up. All right. Yeah. Here's another question. So Codecademy is based in New York City, and we have learners all over the world. But sometimes I feel like, people in tech in America are don't really know that much about the tech industry internationally, in Asia and Europe. I mean, when we think about, European tech companies, the only three that I usually people know are, Spotify, SoundCloud from Sweden, what's the other one? Skype from Denmark from back in the day, when they started early 2000s. I've been following this flying car company based in Germany called Lilium. But outside of that, like we're pretty oblivious to what's going on in Europe. So can you give me at least, this was a question from me, what are your thoughts on the tech scene in Europe right now? The culture?
Yeah, so actually I work with quite a few startups, and I think that's the first thing that comes to my mind right now, because you mentioned so many American companies that have become really large. And I think one of the major differences is I think it's way more easy to fund a new company in the US. You can easily say, okay, I get, I don't know what you call it, an LLC, I think, and start working as a company, right, without all of the liability on my own person. And that I think is a huge difference, because it's way more difficult in Europe, or at least the countries I know, to you either work under your own name with all of the liability, and I think this is one of the big differences in culture in general. I think it's quite similar. Maybe people in Europe are still a bit more like uptight and not as much open to, for instance, working remotely. I think during the last months there has been a huge shift, of course, in working remotely, but I think this is generally something where the US is in the lead, actually. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's very different. Okay. That's a very good to know, because I've always
but that's just my
window into that world. Cool. And then before we jump to our course demo, do you have any tips or coding advice for learners, for Codecademy learners? Like any tips and tricks for people who are learning to code in 2020?
Learning to code in 2020 is, of course, a lot different from when I learned to code. But I think it's important, and this was really important for me at the time, to remember you can't, or if you have a normal computer, you can't destroy your computer by programming it. So
can you repeat that real quick?
Yeah, you can't destroy your computer by programming it, right? You can try everything. Your computer is not going to blow up. Your computer, unless you delete the operating system, is not going to stop to work. Right. You have a compiler or an interpreter that instantly gives you feedback whether your program is syntactically correct. And I think this is really, really the really great thing about programming. You have instant feedback about whether the thing you do works, and you can try pretty much everything without ever risking, I don't know, money, your life, other things. Just try it and see what happens. That's really what I did too, of course, right? I also tried to see, could I write a programming language with emojis, and it obviously worked.
Yeah, what was that the why behind Emoji Code?
Well, it has always been a dream of mine since I learned to program at a very young age, to create my own language. So maybe kind of just wanted to try. Yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons. Yeah.
I feel like that's a very common question. I think we discussed this before. Like, why did
you? Yeah, sure. People keep asking why all the time. There are multiple issues on GitHub, I think, about the topic. And I mean, why do I still work on Emoji Code is very simple. It's very simple to answer, because it's just such a deep learning experience. There are so many things involved in creating a programming language.
Totally.
And that's just
awesome.
Fun.
I think that's a great reason, actually. I think people a lot of times in tech just kind of think about things like how. I feel like the mainstream tech nowadays just think about, whether it can scale or not, whether it can, drive revenue or not. But a lot of times people forget, like, some of the greatest inventions in tech are just from people who are trying to challenge themselves, try to, learn about things, tinker with things, build things, break them down, break them apart, right? Even like the World Wide Web, for example, like it all started from a proposal, right? So big thumbs up, right on. I think you're definitely on the right track. and this is a great inspiration for a lot of our learners too, that you don't have to, build something so you don't have to learn a code to, try to get that salary or try to, create that.
So absolutely, yeah, I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
really great point. I mean, I come exactly from just learning to code for fun, out of curiosity. Yeah, that's really, curiosity is, I think, really a key point in learning to program. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, this is a great. I'm so glad we did this. I mean, we've been working together for, since April Fool's, really, like the
yeah, probably since March already.
Yeah. This is the first time we actually ever did an interview live too. So I'm very happy how this is going. Anyways, I think that's all for our Q&A bit. If you have questions in the chat, make sure to type in the chat on YouTube. And I think we should just get started with showing people what the heck is Emoji Code. Like what do the demo.
Yeah, sure.
You ready?
Okay. Absolutely.
I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Ooh, there's a new option. Who can share only host? Okay. Cool. All right, so we're now on the Learn Emoji Code webpage. Let me know if, type in the chat if you see it in the YouTube chat. Make sure we're good to go.
Are people seeing it?
Oh wait, the YouTube chat is a little bit delayed, it looks like. It's like 1 minute delayed.
So,
type in the chat if you can see it.
Yeah, at least I can see it on YouTube.
You can see it?
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just wait a minute, just in case. Okay, so I think we're in. Cool. Hello, Sock Girl, Nala. Oh, Fede. Cool. We got a bunch of familiar names in here. Very awesome. Cool. So Learn Emoji Code. Here's the landing page. I think we should just get started with the very first module, which is Hello World. Hello World, a little quiz, and a little project. Cool. So introduction to emoji code, and Theo, make sure to chime in if there are any teaching moments that you find.
I mean, not a teaching moment, but I absolutely adore that illustration on the right hand side.
Cool.
It's absolutely it's so emoji code. I love it.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, so this is done by Tim, one of our designers at Codecademy. Just a brilliant designer. Cool. So Emoji Code is an open source, fully blown, strongly typed programming language consisting of emojis. And here's a little history from Theo about why he did, created Emoji Code. And here at Codecademy, we believe that emojis have a very powerful and expressive force that brings smiles and fun to conversations, especially in text messages and Slack messages and also emails. And we built this with Theo, and hopefully it will inspire you, the learner, to down the road create your own programming language or create your own compiler. Okay. So next. Cool. The first the symbols, the emoji symbols that we see. So when we write emoji programs in files, they usually have file extension that looks like this: .emoji C. Okay. But here's a very cool part that I didn't know until Theo told me in an email, that you can actually have a grape emoji as a file extension.
Yeah,
it's so cool. I mean,
maybe I need to say something about this, because I was always against using emoji file names, but it turned out the Emoji Code community really enjoys using emoji file names, and one of their requests to use an emoji file name, so we decided to introduce that.
I mean, it really embodies what Emoji Code stands for, right? So this file is called hello.emoji C. And here's the first little emoji that we're going to see, that we're going to learn about. I'm not sure how to pronounce this emoji C, but it's basically like a race car.
Yeah, it's called the starting flag.
Starting flag. Cool. Right.
In the document, I call it that. I don't know if there's anything official.
Yeah, like I've seen it on Wikipedia called like checkered or something like that.
Okay.
But you've probably seen this with in NASCAR or Fast and Furious, right? It's the beginning of a race, and that kind of means the beginning of a block, the beginning of the code that will be executed when the compiler executed by the compiler when the program runs, correct? Because some of the stuff you mentioned, I remember we talked about this, actually live outside of the checker block.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know if you know Java or C#, or I can't think of any other languages right now. Oh, or C, obviously, or C++. Then you always have a main method or main function, and this starting flag block is just like the main function, actually, the main method. Because obviously you can also have classes or value types or enums with methods in emoji code, and these would, of course, not be defined inside the main function.
So they'll live either above it or below it, correct?
Exactly.
Cool. And then we have two more emojis to learn, the grape emoji and the watermelon emoji. So the grape emoji means the beginning of a code block, and the watermelon emoji means the end of a code block. So I think of them as like the squiggly brackets, the curly braces in, I guess like C++, Java, JavaScript. So I was looking at your GitHub repo. What made you decide to use these two symbols? Like the checker one, like the starting point one makes a lot of sense. But the fruits one, is it just like personal preference or?
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's personal preference. And in the early days of emoji code, I thought it would be a good idea to use emojis for language like syntax, or let's put it another way. I decided to use emojis that are very rarely used to express something meaningful for things that are just boilerplate, actually, right? It doesn't really matter if you put, I don't know, a curly brace there or a $ in C, right? The curly braces convey as little meaning as those grapes and watermelons do. I mean, just except for the fact, of course, that we as humans perceive like those braces, curly braces, as belonging together, but it's actually just a matter of time, and you will perceive the watermelon and the grape as belonging together too. So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And also, I think C has the squiggly bracket, but yeah, totally understand the $ thing. Cool. So let's try this out real quick. So provided program has a single line of code, hello world. We'll learn about line 2 in the next exercise. But this basically prints out a message to the terminal, hello, comma, world, exclamation mark. So it prints out everything inside here. Okay. So here's basically what I think of as like the print statement, right? The print method. The smiley face that starts it, and then the exclamation mark that ends it. And inside we have a text string. So ABC means it kind of wraps two ABCs emojis, basically wraps the string that's inside of it. So here's something I actually do want to, I guess it's like a feature request, okay, from me.
Okay.
So sometimes, when you, emojis, you get the emoji picker, right? Like here you have the control command space. I'm on Mac right now, so control command space. And then to have this stay persistent if you just press one, if you just use one emoji, the emoji picker disappear, right? And then to have, to make it persistent, you got to drag it and it'll stay, so you can type more and more emojis. And after a while, the emoji code symbols, the syntax will appear in the frequently used. But I was thinking it would be really cool and super easy if you just actually created your own sort of like emoji picker that only has, it's basically like, the screen size this big, but it only has the emojis that, the syntax that's used in that.
Yeah.
So, cool, right?
So obviously you're not the first person to think about that.
Oh,
so there are quite a few editor syntaxes and plugins for Sublime Text. There is one, at least for TextMate there is one. So these are the two editors I use myself, so I know about them. Where you just have to type, I don't know, some letters and hit the tabulator key or whatever key, and then it will insert the right emojis. And there were also people who had the idea to create a custom keyboard layout and assign
I think that would be perfect.
Keyboard layout to the keyboard keys. There are all kinds of ideas, but ultimately emoji code is a language and not an IDE. So
sure.
Yeah, we leave that up to the operating system providers to provide emoji input support.
Okay. Well, I tried. Here, so let's run this code real quick. So it prints out, somebody's name right here. Very nice. So strings, and I think we kind of learned this in the last exercise, right? Strings, just similar to other, data types, other types in other languages. String is words or pieces of text that the computer treats as a single item. So here's an example of a string. Here's another one, and here's another one, and here's another one. So you can have numbers and also other emojis inside the string. Cool. So let's just do one of them. So let's print out a string. So this is actually how I do it. I just put all the emojis in there and I copy paste. So print a string made up only of number of characters. So let's do 2020. Hit run. Cool. I'm gonna copy and paste this. So we want one with just letters, blah, blah. And then we're gonna do one with both numbers, I guess whatever we want. So let's do that. Cool. Showcase 3 different, remember emoji code, just like most languages, it kind of like goes from top to bottom, left to right. Cool, errors. I actually really like this exercise because the errors, even the errors in emojis are a little bit different, which I really appreciate, just like the detail here. So here's an example of emoji code error. And for most learners at Codecademy, you're going to see plenty of errors in your journey to learn to code. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. The first bit of the error is the file name. Okay, so in this case, it's example.emojic. This number right here is the line number where the compiler thinks there is a mistake. Okay, and the second number is a character number in that line. So the 0 character, it's index 0, zero indexed, line 3. And what is the error? It says unexpected end of the program. Okay. So for this little exercise right here, we want to run the code, and then we need to pinpoint where the error is. And I really like how you even have emoji code, like an error emoji right here, and then usually you have like an up arrow to point to where the compiler thinks there's a problem, and you also have an emoji here. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I really like. I really like this step of the lesson because it's really something people struggle with in emoji code, because if you're not yet used to reading emoji code, you're just overwhelmed by all these colorful little signs, and people tend to miss the places where the errors in the code are. So I think it's first of all really great that you immediately teach people to like deal with errors. And secondly, what you mentioned, I think also yeah, it was really important to me that the error message be customized with emojis. Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome. This exercise actually was created by Sarah, one of my coworkers. So all credit goes to her.
Great.
Let's see. Also, by the way, for all the learners, like sometimes the error where the error think there's a mistake can be a little bit misleading. Like compiler errors sometimes are not exactly it can be before it too, right? So you really gotta look in the code too. So this is saying that on line 2, the character 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, somewhere right here. It's actually right here. Cool. I'm gonna run it again. Ooh, there's another problem. Okay, so line 2, character 3, and I think it's missing a. Let me pull up the emoji picker one more time. Oh, it's already here. It's a grape. I'm gonna run it one more time. Okay, here are more errors. Line 6, character 1. Cool. I think it's missing a smiley face. And then this one, see, this one is pretty misleading, right? It says line 6, but it's actually right here. Cool. I think we're good. Cool. Comments. So here, just like every programming language and markup languages, there are usually comments in the syntax in the program. So there's single line comments and multi-line comments. Single line comments, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's a thought bubble, right? It's almost like things that's not said, unspoken. I really like that. That looks like this. And then for multi-line comments, there is, let me actually zoom in real quick. to begin the comment, you use these two emojis, a thought bubble and this sort of like arrow soon emoji. And then to end it, you have this arrow end and thought bubble to end the multi-line comment. Okay, so everything here will be commented out, will not be executed by the program. Cool, so let's try this out real quick. Let's, somewhere in the program, we're gonna create a thought bubble that says, today, World Emoji Day. Run it. And as you can see, the terminal, the message is not changed, right? Because the stuff is actually not printed out. Only this line of code, line 4, is printed out. Cool. And let's add a multi-line comment here. What should we say, Theo? How are you feeling today, Ashley? What are your?
Yeah, pretty great actually. It's World Emoji Day, so.
Pretty great. Let's hear that. Cool. Very nice. Okay, and then here's some review that we did for this lesson, and it's a pretty short lesson. This is basically like a preview, a hello world, the traditional hello world with comments, explaining what all the little symbols mean. Let's try this out. Let's try the quiz out with the YouTube chat. Okay. Actually, this question is pretty simple. What should go in the blank to output a message in the terminal? Okay, so this is basically fill in the blank. We want to complete this program right here. Cool. Got it. Nice. True or false? Emoji Code is a real programming language that can be used to develop applications. True. It'd be funny if I said false. What would the output be for a program like this? So type in the chat 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. What would the output be for a program like this? 1, 2, 3, or 4. So type in the YouTube chat. Oh, I'm getting a bunch of Slack messages. I should be. Oh boy, I wish. Oh wait, I think this the YouTube channel is a little bit delayed, so we might have to wait this out.
Okay.
Okay, so Sarah Backtat said 3, and she is correct because only the stuff that's part of only this text string is printed out. Remember, this is just the syntax that says this is a text string, so the ABC emojis won't be printed out. Cool. Which one is a single line comment in emoji code? Type in the chat 1, 2, 3, 4. We went over this pretty quick, but hopefully you caught there's definitely a lag. So as we wait for the chat to answer this question, 1, 2, 3, 4. What are some of another question for you, Theo? What are some of the upcoming features of Emoji Code?
As you might know, might not know, the current version of Emoji Code is 1.0 beta 2. Mm-hmm. This means we're actually nearing the grand release of version 1.0. Yeah. And so what's really coming up is some improvements to the compiler, so that the compiler will be, the compilers sometimes can be a bit bad at compiling certain uses of value types in Emoji Code, and that's what's going to be optimized in the next version here.
Yeah, awesome. So some people are saying 3 and some people are saying 1 in the YouTube chat. So the first one is actually multi-line comment. Here it's a checker block, so this one is not correct. Here is a text string, so this is also not correct. So it's 4, the thought bubble, right? The single thought bubble. Very nice. Cool. So now we have block letters. Do you want to do this, or do you think we should do this, or move into the next lesson on variables?
I think we should move ahead because that's really something for people to figure out on their own, I guess. Cool. If they completed the lesson, then.
All right. So folks watching, make sure to check out the first project. We're going to move on to variables. We have about 20 minutes, so we should be good to go. Oh, actually, let me go here real quick. Okay. Cool. Variables. Similar to a lot of strongly typed languages, there are types, right? We're not going to dive too deep into types in this lesson, but here's just so that you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 that represent integers such as 0, such as 420, such as -34. We have decimal numbers or floating point numbers, 100. That's a symbol for it, which I really like. Oh, actually, wait a second. This one is not a decimal.
Yeah, this was suggested by somebody from the community too. So it was
Cool.
in former times it was a completely different symbol, and there was quite a bit of debate about the right symbol for floating point numbers. And it finally turned out most of the people like this one the best. So it became this one.
I mean, I like this too. So 3.14, -200.0, anything with a floating point. ABCD text strings, sequence of characters. As you've seen in the previous lesson, it's wrapped with ABC emojis. Here's a really good one. The OK emoji represents truth values. The thumbs up means true, and thumbs down means false. Cool. Navigation. Okay. Constant variables. This one is pretty self-explanatory if you've programmed before in another language. So constant variables are variables that you can't modify the value in the program, right? So you create it and it'll stay the same throughout the program. So for this, it's very similar to other programming languages, except there is the sort of assign operator, right? In other languages, usually the equal sign. So emoji code, we're declaring a constant named pi. That's the name of the variable. And we're storing the value 3.14 into this variable pi, okay? I think because the version of Unicode or something that we're using on Codecademy, the symbol actually looks a little bit slightly different than what you have on your documentation, but it is, yeah. So go check it out.
Yeah, that's actually a little tiny detail of emojis as there are today, because some of the symbols we know as emojis were actually in Unicode before they were added to the emoji picker. So there are two versions of those Unicode symbols, but the compiler doesn't care about whether you use the emoji one or the plain old one.
Sure. Cool. So let's try this out. We want to declare a constant named year with a value of the current year. So 2020, I'm just going to copy and paste it. Oops, something wrong. Let me copy this real quick. Pasted this in. All right. Cool. All right, string interpolation. Okay, so here's another feature that I'd love to have in in 1.0. So I feel like if you look at all the other, the most popular programming languages, JavaScript, Python, and so on, I've noticed that usually what they've, I'm sure every language have their own problems as they scale, right? For different use cases that they're used for, but I feel like they've all gotten the very basics right. And one of the basics I think is so necessary for like programming is the ability to print a variable.
Yeah. Mm.
Right? So I might make a pull request in your GitHub repo. Like it would be great if you can just print out a variable without using string interpolation.
Yeah. So I mean, since you brought this up, I'm gonna respond to it.
Cool.
The reason why there is no such feature today is because, as you've mentioned before, Emoji Code is actually I really design Emoji Code like any proper language, and the reason there is no such print function or something like that is because we don't have functions in Emoji Code. It's just objects like in Java. That would mean we would have to introduce a class like system, and then it would be like in Java system.out.print, whatever. And this just doesn't feel right to me. So that has never been. added such a function, yeah, or method.
Okay.
That's also about it.
Again, I tried.
Yeah, but open an issue on GitHub, and we can go into lengthy discussion about it.
For sure. Anyways, so to print out a string, you use something called string interpolation. It's basically construct a string with, and you can sprinkle in a constant, a variable, or other things in as part of the string literal. Okay, and to do so, you use the sort of magnet emojis that wrap around the variable. So suppose we have a constant named height, right? We declare a constant variable called height, and we assign it a value of 3000. If you want to print out a string that basically that want to print out the value of the value of height instead of the name of it, then we wrap this variable in magnets. So the output will look like this: Alex Honnold climbed El Capitan, which is 3,000 feet without a rope. So everything is the same here except this right here. As you can see, instead of printing the variable name, it print out the value of height, which is 3,000. Okay, so let's try this out real quick so people understand a little bit more. So to output the constant year using this print method, so we're basically throwing in the year as part of this print message. So let's do this real quick. I'm gonna copy in this APC. The current year is, I'm gonna copy this in right here. Ooh, something's wrong. Current year is here. Oh boy. Oh, whoops. Line 4. Missed a closing ABC emoji. Is it weird to look at somebody programming or in a programming language that you created?
It is. I mean, I'm already used to it because over the past weeks, I've gotten used to people creating a lesson about the language I created. So I'm kind of used to it now, but cool. It is somewhat strange and funny at the same moment. Yeah.
Maybe I'm a tester, right? It's almost like you're getting customer feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen other people, friends, and people I've taught or talked to about Emoji Code use it, but it's still different to see like a whole company develop a course about it. Right?
Totally,
it's still different than you demoing it on YouTube. That's still a lot different.
Cool. All right, so arithmetic operations. This is pretty self-explanatory. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. The modulo symbol looks pretty cool. It's like the garbage symbol, right? It's like the remainder, whatever is left, so you throw it out.
But you like it.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, okay, that's great, because when I first introduced it, the first feedback I got was pretty negative, because the person told me something like, modulo is a really useful operator. Why would you use the waste term for it? And that was not the intention at all. But
no, I love it. I think it really separated from the pack of these ones right here. So pretty self-explanatory here. We're doing a addition, right? So we're declaring a variable called score 1. We're storing the result of this into score 1, which is 6, right? And so on. So in the code editor, we have already declared and initialized a variable called amount that has a value of 18.99. So declare a new variable named tip. Actually, I'm just going to pull up the emoji picker. I feel like it's a disrespect to copy and paste.
well, I copy and paste all emoji code symbols all the time.
So let's do amount. We're going to do multiply. 0.2. Cool. Ooh, something's wrong. Ooh, maybe there's a testing problem?
Yeah, I think so, because your code
looks good.
Maybe if you use the emoji multiplication sign, like the third in the first row.
Instead of a different one. Wow.
Probably, no, that's okay, still not.
No.
Looking different. Maybe if you copy and paste it from your error message below.
Right, there are a couple, but they all look the same. I guess. Huh. Okay, so there's probably with the testing. Good that we have taught this. Okay, but anyways, that's how you do it. I'm gonna change this right after the live stream.
It's funny actually, because I mean I've tested it too and it worked for me. So
yeah,
I'm not sure.
It's we use regex, regular expressions on the back end, so it's usually like probably like an extra space or missing space or something like that.
Okay.
Mutable variables. So instead of constants, we have something called mutable variables where the values can be modified throughout the program. And here's one way. Here's how we declare a mutable variable. So instead of just doing the sign operator, the right arrow, there's two new emojis that you have to throw in: the crayon emoji and the new emoji. Okay, but pretty much the same thing. So declare a mutable variable named quarter. So let's do crayon, and then let's do new, and then let's do right arrow. Whoops. I'm going to put in the variable, the value 8 in there. So nothing should happen. And there is a warning. Oh, I like this. I never noticed this. This is a little different. But this is a warning saying that quarters, even though it's we made it as a mutable variable, was never mutated, was never modified. So this is not a error. It's a warning. It's basically saying that consider making quarters variable into a constant variable. Cool. Operator assignment. So here are ways that you can modify a mutable variable. There's something called addition assignment, subtraction assignment, multiplication assignment, division assignment, modulo assignment. And they're pretty much the same thing as they're equivalent to, so suppose I have something that looks like this. Actually, let's copy this code in there. I'm going to comment this out. Suppose we declare, so only look at this code, line 6 right here. So suppose we declare a variable called I, mutable variable called I, and we start it as 0. And now let's say we want to print out, let's do like this. Okay. So let's do, we want to print out I, and then we want to comment, let's just comment out line 10, line 11 for now. Okay, so only focus on this code right here. So we're creating a variable called I, storing 0 into it, and we want to print out I. It should be 0. Cool, and this is a little warning that you can ignore. When we do something like this on line 11, or line 12, sorry, we can comment this out. What we're doing is this, we're incrementing I by 1. So now I is 1. And what this means is this is actually the equivalent of something that looks like, you know, I plus 1, something like that. We're adding 1 to I itself. And when we do something like this, let's uncomment this line of code on line 16. We're basically saying instead of increment it by 1, we want to increment it by 5. So if we print this line of code again, it will be 6, because 1 plus 5 is 6. Okay, so a little shorthand, I guess, for not only adding, but adding and also reassigning. And this is subtracting and reassigning, multiplying and reassigning, dividing and reassigning, finding the remainder and reassigning. Okay, so in the co-editor, we have already declared and initialized a variable called level. So use addition assignment to increment level by 2. So I'm actually just going to copy this code right here. Instead of doing +1, we're going to do 2, and we're going to do level. So here, and this is saying that we're taking level and we're adding 2 to it. So when we run it, oh, whoops. Oh, I commented this code out before, so I'm going to uncomment it back. Cool. There's a little bit, it's a little bit buggy right now because I have. Cool. And now we want to, and for I don't know if you can see this for learners at home, there's actually a plus symbol right here, plus emoji right here. Due to our co-editor background, it's a little bit, it's hard to tell. So we're gonna do the same thing, but instead of addition assignment, we're gonna use subtraction assignment. Okay, so now we're decremented by 1. And now we want to print out the result of level. So let me just go in here. Smiley face, ABC for the text string. I'll do string interpolation, 2 of them. And then we want to print out level. And if you really want, you can actually have, the current level is blah. Nice. Cool. So that's Emoji Code for Hello World and variables. Make sure to check out the projects. There's a piggy bank project. There's what emoji are you projects when you get into conditionals with emojis. There's a block letters project. So a lot of great projects. But that's pretty much a demo of the course. We're already an hour into the stream. Should we open the floor to more questions?
Yeah, sure.
So YouTube chat, make sure to, I'm gonna unshare my screen. Cool. And then maybe we can, let me go over to our YouTube page real quick so that we can make sure to ask any questions for Theo about Emoji Code, about the Emoji Code course, about software.
Compilers, languages, whatever.
What are, and I guess I can start one off before the questions start coming in. But what are some of the what are some of the things that you really learned? What are some of the highlights? Like I'm sure you spent months and years on this. So like, what are the highs and lows of building this language app? Like, what are some of the findings? The learning components of designing your own language.
So I think something you will learn really soon is that the most natural and obvious things in modern programming languages are the most complicated ones. For instance, automatic memory management. We all in, I don't know, Java, C#, Swift, we all create objects and they simply disappear when they're no longer needed due to garbage collection or automatic reference counting. And it turns out this is actually one of the most difficult things to get right. You don't want to slow down the program. You want the garbage collector to also thoroughly clean and then at the right moment and so on. That's actually one of the deepest learning experiences I had developing Emoji Code.
Interesting.
Memory management.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So just for learners at home, like new coders, so garbage collection is a form of automatic memory management. And it relieves the programmer, the coder, from performing manual memory management. Okay, and this is where manual memory management is where programmer specifies what objects to allocate or objects to deallocate and returns to the memory system. So it's like a CS concept. A lot of coders who are learning Python, JavaScript might not know right now.
And they shouldn't care about it. That's what I mean, right? This is something so natural in programming today. So but actually it's quite a bit of work. That's what I meant, right? So and also with typing, so things like we also in modern languages we can just cast values at runtime. We can say, okay, this is, I don't know, an instance of object or instance of any or something like that, and I cast it to whatever I want to cast it to, if it's at least of that type, and it just works. And implementing that is actually quite difficult, because you need to somehow know the type of the value at runtime, and probably that was already a bit complicated for I don't know if you want to.
Here, let's see if there are questions from the YouTube chat. Okay, this is actually a great question from Will Fieldman. How much time have you spent developing Emoji Code?
I don't know how to answer that question. I haven't counted any hours. I mean, it has been developed over the course of 6 years, I guess. So, but that doesn't mean I have been working on Emoji Code 5 days a week, six years. Obviously not. I can't tell you.
Yeah, that's still wild though. I mean, 6 years is a pretty long time, so definitely, thumbs up. Is there, so from Na myself on YouTube chat, is there an emoji editor out there?
Is there what, an emoji editor?
Yeah, I think it's like Emoji Code editor. Is there an IDE?
No, in former times there was an emoji IDE plugin for the Atom editor, but I gave up supporting that because it ultimately was too much work for the benefit. Let's put it like that.
Cool. And then this is actually a great comment. I totally agree with this, from Heisman, das Link, Hosenbein, das Link. I think this language is perfect to visualize how code works. And I really think so too. It really I think any sort of newer, fresh programming languages like this really make you rethink about, really like help me look at programming in a different light.
Absolutely, yeah, certainly. That's what I meant in the beginning when I talked about the word I was looking for, and I was thinking about code. That's also a thing I realized. We don't code thinking about the words that actually are there. If I type 4, it doesn't really matter if it says 4 or if it says, I don't know, emoji with some arrows in it. That's not how we program actually. It's the same with mathematics, by the way. Those are also just signs somebody made up.
Here's another question from Hosenbein again. So, hey Theo, are you from Germany?
No, I'm not from Germany. I'm, as I mentioned before, I'm in Zurich, Switzerland right now, but I'm actually from Austria.
Cool. And I think
I wonder why that question came up. Probably
maybe your accent. Possibly, I don't know. But I think we talked about this before. I used to live in Germany. I think I've been to Zurich when I was a little kid, so I'd love to go back sometimes. From Nani Manzono, where would you want to see this in 5 years, and where do you think it's going?
I have no idea. I wouldn't. Never ever would I have thought that there would be a Codecademy course about it when I started. I would have never thought that people were actually going to build things in it. And so I have no idea where we will be in 5 years. Maybe all software everywhere is going to be written in Emoji Code. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a cool language. Hopefully more and more people are using the brand to make more people aware of it. Is it possible, from not myself again, is it possible to create a script font of tiny animated emoji? Is it possible to create a script, a font of tiny animated emoji?
Honestly, I don't get the question. You can create a custom font with animated symbols if that's the question, but not sure how that is related to Emoji Code.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's a wrap. We did it for a whole hour. So I'm very happy how this turned out. Thank you again, Theo, for we try to do this course on April Fools, and COVID hits, and we didn't want, I think the marketing team didn't want to be too tone deaf, so we kind of backlogged this until we found a better day, which is now World Emoji Code. I just want to thank you so much again for helping out with the course, for reviewing the course, for giving me ideas for the course.
It was absolutely my pleasure. It was great fun.
If you're ever in New York again, I'd love to grab a drink with you to thank you again in person. So yeah, thank you everybody who's watching. Let us know in the comments below on Facebook and YouTube if you want to see more interviews like this. And say bye to Theo, everybody. And I think we're going to call it. Happy Emoji.
Bye, everyone.
Cool.